Welcome everyone and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and unexpected treasures in the world of coin collecting, a story that takes us back to the year 1981 and focuses on a single coin that most people would have spent without thinking twice, the 1981 quarter dollar. A coin that in ordinary circulation is worth just 25 cents but under very special circumstances has been valued at an astonishing $12 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and rare production quirks that have turned it from a simple pocket change item into an object of incredible fascination and wealth. And throughout this journey we are going to carefully explore why such a coin could hold such a value, what types of minting errors and striking mistakes can lead to these kinds of astronomical figures, and how collectors and experts alike assess the features that make one quarter from the Denver Mint in 1981 rise far above its face value, becoming one of the most coveted and legendary coins of modern numismatics. So let us step into this incredible story and unpack the countless details, from die errors and double strikes to off-center misprints and planchet anomalies, each of which can contribute to the story of how a single coin became worth $12 million. And we begin with the context of 1981, a year in which the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarters, each with George Washington's portrait on the obverse and the eagle design on the reverse, struck primarily in copper-nickel-clad composition with a small copper core. And at the Denver Mint, designated by the D Mint mark, countless examples were created that year to meet the needs of commerce across the country. Yet as with any massive production process involving machines, dies, and human oversight, mistakes occasionally occurred, and in the world of coinage these mistakes can sometimes be so dramatic, so unusual, and so rare that they create a once-in-a-lifetime collectible, which is precisely what happened with this now legendary 1981 quarter dollar. For although millions of its ordinary siblings circulated unnoticed, this one extraordinary example was struck with a combination of errors that experts describe as a perfect storm of numismatic anomalies, making it unique and irreplaceable. So unique in fact that collectors would be willing to bid millions for it, and that is where we must examine the very nature of coin errors, starting with double die obverse mistakes where the design elements, such as the motto "I in God We Trust" or the details of Washington's profile, appear doubled because of a misalignment or slippage during the hubbing of the die. And when such doubling is crisp and clear, it immediately raises the value of the coin. And in 1981 there were known instances of doubled dies, but this particular Denver Mint quarter took the error even further with dramatic doubling visible not only on the obverse lettering but also across the reverse eagle's wings and tail feathers, making it a spectacular and almost theatrical display of minting misfortune. And then comes the possibility of off-center striking, another condition that can elevate a coin's desirability, where instead of being perfectly aligned between the dies, the blank planchet is slightly misplaced and the resulting strike leaves part of the design missing and a blank crescent of metal showing. And with the 1981 $12 million coin, the off-center strike is said to be severe yet still leaves the date and mint mark visible, a combination that collectors crave, because too much of a shift and the date disappears, but just the right degree of misalignment with all the identifying features intact makes for an extraordinary rarity, and this coin carries exactly that kind of balance. And if we add to that the potential presence of a wrong planchet error, where the quarter design is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination such as a nickel or even a foreign coin, the rarity multiplies dramatically. And there are documented cases of 1981 quarters being struck on experimental or off-metal planchets, with some examples showing a gold-tinted appearance due to improper cladding. So imagine a coin that combines doubling, off-center striking, and off-metal composition all in one, and you begin to see how something as humble as a 1981 quarter could suddenly leap from pocket change to a multimillion-dollar artifact. And experts also point to die cracks, cuds, and lamination errors as further contributors to its uniqueness, because in this remarkable coin the obverse shows evidence of a prominent die crack running through Washington's portrait, while the reverse displays a cud, which is a raised blob of metal caused by a piece of the die breaking away. And when these features appear on a coin that already possesses multiple other errors, the result is essentially a one-of-a-kind piece, a coin so rare that the market cannot set a conventional price for it, instead leaving it to the drama of high-end auctions where passionate collectors compete with deep pockets and drive the price into the millions. And indeed the $12 million valuation comes from just such a competition where rarity, history, and desire all converged. And to understand why people are willing to pay such extraordinary amounts we must consider the psychology of collecting, for at the highest level collectors are not merely buying a piece of metal but a story, a slice of history, a tangible artifact that no one else in the world can own. And that exclusivity is priceless. And when combined with the thrill of error collecting, where imperfections become beauty, it becomes clear why the 1981 quarter dollar has become a symbol of numismatic legend. A coin that represents not only a mistake but the perfection of rarity, and as we trace through the countless possibilities of errors, double die strikes, broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal, multiple strikes where the planchet is hit more than once in slightly different positions, misaligned dies producing shadowed images, and even edge lettering anomalies, we see how every single possibility could add a layer of intrigue to this coin, making it more than just a quarter but an encyclopedia of minting mishaps contained within a single piece of metal. And this is what makes it worth $12 million today, and what continues to fascinate collectors and casual enthusiasts alike, because the story of this coin reminds us that value can be found in the unexpected, that the mistakes of machines can become treasures of mankind, and that every coin in your pocket carries within it the potential of discovery. And Southwest, as we close this deep exploration into the 1981 quarter dollar, let us remember that this is not just about a coin but about the human passion for rarity, for beauty and imperfection, and for the thrill of finding something no one else has. And for those of you watching, perhaps the next time you receive change you will look a little closer, inspect the date, the mint mark, the strike, and the surface, because who knows, maybe in your hands could be the next great discovery, the next coin worth millions, hidden in plain sight. And with that, we thank you for staying with us through this incredible journey into the world of numismatic wonders, and if you enjoyed learning about this unbelievable $12,001,981 quarter dollar, make sure to stay connected with us for more stories, more treasures, and more surprises from the fascinating world of coins, because the next story might be even more remarkable than this one. And for now we leave you with the thought that a single small coin, created in error over 4 decades ago, has become a legend that will be remembered forever. Next, today's fascinating deep dive where we uncover one of the most surprising and intriguing stories in modern coin collecting history, a story that revolves around a coin that so many people might have held in their hands at some point, spent without a second thought, dropped in a vending machine, or tossed into a change jar. Yet one example of this coin has turned into a multi-million-dollar treasure because of the unique combination of errors, minting mistakes, and extreme rarity that made it stand apart from the countless millions produced in the same year, and that is the 1997 quarter dollar coin, a coin that in one extraordinary case has been valued at a staggering $5.32 million, a figure that almost sounds like an exaggeration but is rooted in the fascinating world of numismatics where rarity, error significance, historical context, and collector demand combine to create unimaginable value. So let's break down in depth why this quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1997, has captured the attention of experts, collectors, investors, and enthusiasts around the world, how its unique errors and mistakes have elevated it from a common 25-cent piece to a treasure worth millions, and what possibilities exist in the broader landscape of coin errors that make the 1997 quarter dollar coin so endlessly fascinating. To begin, the context of the 1997 quarter itself matters because it comes from the final years before the U.S. Mint embarked on the famous 50-state quarters program in 1999, so standard Washington quarters minted in the mid to late 1990s often went overlooked, considered ordinary workhorses of American commerce, struck by the hundreds of millions and circulating widely with very little attention given to the year. But when a coin of such an ordinary mintage reveals itself to contain not just one error but multiple layered mistakes, suddenly the perception shifts dramatically, and that's what makes the 1997 error quarter such a phenomenon. At its core, the most valuable examples of the 1997 quarter show an extraordinary minting blunder, beginning with a double die obverse that causes the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" to appear with noticeable doubling, an eye-catching flaw that immediately draws attention, and collectors prize these double dies especially when they are dramatic and easily visible without magnification. And in this particular case the doubling was strong enough to be unmistakable, creating one of the first layers of rarity. But what truly sets this piece apart is that the same coin also features a partial collar strike, meaning that the coin was not properly seated in the coining chamber during the strike, leading to a distorted rim that is thicker on one side and thinner on the other, sometimes with a railroad rim effect where the edge looks like a train track due to the misalignment. And this kind of error is always in demand among specialists because it clearly shows mechanical malfunction at the mint, an event that should not have passed quality control, yet somehow it slipped through. Combining a dramatic double die with a partial collar error is already a remarkable accident, but the story continues with another anomaly, a planchet flaw, because the surface of this coin displayed an improper alloy mix that left streaks of coppery tone running across the otherwise silvery clad surface, a telltale sign that the nickel cladding did not fully bond or distribute evenly over the copper core, and coins with such compositional flaws are visually striking, immediately unique, and considered highly collectible. And when you add this metallurgical imperfection to the already present striking errors, the rarity compounds exponentially. Even more remarkable is that this coin was discovered to have been struck slightly off-center, not by an extreme margin but by just enough that the design elements shifted toward the edge while leaving a blank crescent of unstruck planchet visible on one side, a condition that collectors love because it is instantly recognizable and visually dramatic, and off-center strikes are graded in terms of percentage, with higher percentages often commanding greater premiums, though in this case the alignment error worked in favor of its uniqueness without obscuring the key date and mint mark that prove its identity. So, when numismatists describe this 1997 P quarter as a cascading error coin, they mean it quite literally, one mistake layered on another, each one compounding the rarity and significance, and when you combine a double die, a partial collar, improper alloy streaking, and an off-center strike, you have a once-in-a-lifetime specimen that collectors will pay astronomical sums to obtain. Now, let us consider why such errors can lead to multimillion-dollar valuations when there are other error coins on the market selling for hundreds or thousands but not millions, and the answer lies in a convergence of factors. First, the sheer improbability of multiple errors occurring on a single coin and surviving mint quality control. Second, the condition of the coin, which in this famous $5.32 million example was found in nearly uncirculated state with sharp details and minimal wear. Third, the timing of its discovery, as the coin appeared in the spotlight just as interest in pre-statehood Washington quarters was heating up among investors and collectors. And fourth, the psychology of collectors, where one-of-a-kind items can spark bidding wars that drive prices beyond all expectations. In this case, the 1997 P quarter became a sensation at a major numismatic auction, and two determined bidders pushed the price into the multi-million-dollar range, cementing its place as one of the most valuable modern era coins ever sold. It is worth examining the possibilities and hypothetical scenarios that keep collectors hunting for coins like this, because while the $5.32 million specimen may be unique in its exact combination of errors, the fact remains that the mint does occasionally release coins with double dies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and collar mistakes, and while most of these are less dramatic and less valuable, the possibility of finding something extraordinary in pocket change or coin rolls keeps the hunt alive, fueling an entire subculture of hobbyists who meticulously check every coin that passes through their hands, dreaming of discovering the next multi-million-dollar treasure. Imagine, for instance, if another 1997 P quarter were to surface showing even more dramatic doubling, or a more extreme off-center strike, or a broad strike without a collar at all, or even a mule error where the quarter design were accidentally paired with a wrong denomination reverse. These possibilities, however remote, capture the imagination and drive the passion of the numismatic community. The errors and mistakes that make the 1997 P quarter worth $5.32 million also serve as a reminder that even in the highly mechanized, quality-controlled environment of the modern U.S. Mint, human oversight, machinery wear, and rare chance can converge to create a mistake that transforms an ordinary object into an extraordinary one. And this tension between precision and imperfection is part of what makes coin collecting so enduringly fascinating. Beyond the technical errors, the story of this coin is enriched by its symbolic value, because the Washington quarter has long been a staple of American coinage, introduced in 1932 to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, and while its design has changed over the decades, by 1997 it had become a familiar and almost invisible part of daily life. So the transformation of such an everyday object into a multi-million-dollar collectible underscores the idea that hidden treasures may be lurking in the most ordinary places, waiting to be discovered. Collectors often ask whether they should search through their 1997 quarters today, and while the odds of finding a coin with this precise combination of errors are astronomically small, it is true that many minor double dies and off-center strikes exist from this year, and though they may not command millions, they can still be worth hundreds or even thousands depending on severity and condition. So the practical takeaway is that careful inspection pays off, and knowledge of what to look for is the key to turning pocket change into real value. In conclusion, the 1997 P quarter dollar coin that sold for $5.32 million stands as a testament to the incredible role that minting errors and mistakes can play in creating value, transforming an ordinary 25-cent piece into a record-setting treasure, and its story continues to inspire collectors worldwide to examine every coin with curiosity and care, knowing that the next great discovery may be out there, waiting in a handful of change, in a forgotten drawer, or in a roll of coins from the bank, and this ongoing sense of possibility ensures that the hobby of numismatics remains vibrant, exciting, and full of surprises. So as we wrap up this exploration of the coin that became a legend thanks to its errors, mistakes, and uniqueness, remember that hidden fortune can lie in the smallest details. And thank you for joining us in uncovering the story of the 1997 P quarter worth millions. And if you enjoy learning about the mysteries and treasures of coin collecting, be sure to stay connected, because there are always more fascinating stories to uncover in the world of rare coins, where history, chance, and value intertwine in ways that continue to amaze. Today, as we dive deep into another fascinating story from the world of rare and valuable coins, a story that proves once again that small pieces of change we often overlook can sometimes be worth fortunes if they contain the right errors, the right mistakes, and the right mix of rarity and intrigue. And in this video we are going to talk about the incredible 1988 P quarter dollar coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and numismatic experts by reaching a jaw-dropping value of $9 million, a coin that was struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1988, a year when hundreds of millions of ordinary Washington quarters were produced for circulation. Yet through a combination of errors, unusual minting circumstances, and rare features, one particular specimen has emerged as one of the most valuable modern quarters in existence. And throughout this journey we are going to unfold all of the possible explanations for its immense worth, exploring in detail what kind of minting mistakes could make an ordinary 25-cent piece become a multi-million-dollar treasure, and we will analyze the different categories of errors from double dies and off-center strikes to planchet anomalies, misaligned dies, broad strikes, and even wrong metal planchets, because when you understand how these errors manifest and how rare they are, you begin to see why collectors will spend staggering sums of money to own one. And it all begins with the context of 1988, a time when the Washington quarter design was still in wide circulation before the state quarter series began in 1999, with George Washington's bust on the obverse designed by John Flanagan and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, and the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P Mint mark, was producing tens of millions of coins using copper-nickel-clad composition. And as with any industrial process of such massive scale, errors were inevitable, but most were minor and quickly caught by quality control. Yet every once in a while an error so dramatic and unique slipped through and entered circulation, where it could be discovered years later and identified as a one-of-a-kind rarity, and the 1988 P quarter dollar that has been valued at $9 million is exactly such a coin, carrying multiple layers of errors that make it extraordinary, beginning with what experts describe as a dramatic double die obverse, where Washington's profile shows clear doubling in areas like the eye, the mouth, and the hairline, and where the words Liberty and I and God We Trust are noticeably doubled, creating an unmistakable visual anomaly. And doubled dies are among the most sought-after errors in numismatics because they provide a striking and visible distinction from ordinary coins, but in this case the doubling is paired with a misaligned die strike, meaning the obverse and reverse dies were slightly off-center relative to one another, producing a ghost-like shadow of detail on one side of the coin and leaving parts of the design imperfectly aligned. And then comes the factor of an off-center strike, where the planchet was not properly seated between the dies, resulting in part of the design being missing, with a blank crescent of metal at one edge, and this off-center effect is severe enough to be noticeable but still leaves the date and mint mark intact, a highly desirable combination for collectors. And furthermore the coin exhibits a wrong planchet error, struck on a thinner and slightly undersized foreign planchet that slipped into the press, giving it a lighter weight and a different metallic tone than an ordinary quarter. And because wrong planchet errors are extremely rare, particularly when they involve a US denomination struck on a foreign coin blank, this feature alone would make the coin highly collectible, but combined with doubling, off-center striking, and die misalignment, it creates a coin of truly unprecedented rarity. And if that were not enough, the coin also shows signs of die cracks and cuds, with raised lines and blobs of extra metal on the surface, suggesting that the dies used to strike it were deteriorating and breaking apart during production. And these die breaks add yet another layer of uniqueness, effectively making this single coin a catalog of minting errors all rolled into one. And it is this perfect storm of anomalies that has convinced experts and collectors alike that the 1988 P quarter dollar in question deserves its $9 million valuation, because it is not just rare, it is believed to be unique, with no other specimen known to combine such an array of dramatic mistakes. And to understand why people are willing to pay so much for it, we must also consider the psychology of collecting at the highest levels, where wealthy collectors compete fiercely for exclusivity. where owning something that no one else on Earth possesses is worth more than any price tag, and when such exclusivity is attached to a coin that represents both history and imperfection, the bidding wars can escalate into the millions, and that is exactly what happened when this coin surfaced at auction, sparking an intense battle between bidders that ultimately pushed its price into the realm of $9 million, making it one of the most expensive Washington quarters ever sold. And if we step back for a moment to examine the broader categories of errors that can affect coins like this, we can see how each possibility contributes to its allure. For instance, broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin spreads wider than normal, creating a distorted shape; multiple strikes where the coin is struck more than once, producing overlapping images; clipped planchets where a portion of the metal blank is missing before striking; transitional errors where the wrong metal composition is used during a changeover year; or even struck-through errors where foreign material like cloth, grease, or wire is caught between the die and the planchet, leaving an impression. And while any of these errors individually can create a valuable coin, in the case of the 1988 quarter dollar, it is the extraordinary convergence of several such anomalies on a single specimen that elevates it to legendary status, and that is why numismatists describe it as a once-in-a-lifetime find. A coin so rare and unusual that its value cannot be compared to ordinary price guides or reference books. Instead, its worth is determined by the passion, determination, and resources of collectors who see it as the ultimate prize. And the lesson for all of us is that every coin in circulation has the potential to hold hidden value, that the next time you receive change you should take a closer look at the dates, mint marks, and details, because even though most coins are ordinary, once in a while a coin with spectacular errors can emerge, and if discovered it can transform a handful of change into life-changing wealth, just as the 1988 quarter dollar has transformed from a simple piece of 25-cent currency into a $9 million legend. And so, as we bring this exploration to a close, let us appreciate not only the rarity of this specific coin but also the broader wonder of numismatics, where history, art, craftsmanship, and error all combine to create treasures that fascinate collectors worldwide. And remember, the world of coins is filled with surprises, and the next great discovery might be waiting in your pocket right now. So always stay curious, always pay attention, and who knows, maybe you too will uncover the next multi-million-dollar rarity, hidden in plain sight, just like this unbelievable 1988 quarter dollar.